Start the webinar now. Okay. Hello everyone. Good morning and good evening. Welcome to Where to Win webinar series. My name is Noor Basha, Senior Marketing Manager at Winwire Technologies, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. During the webinar, if you experience any audio issues, you can dial in through telephone details provided to you in your email. During the webinar, you can also post questions in the question dialog, and we will take as many as we can at the end of the session. So just before we move on to today's session, let me take a minute to introduce who we are. So Winwire Technologies is an IT solutions company making information actionable for the enterprises. Some of our key focus areas includes mobility, cloud, collaboration, and analytics. As a Microsoft manager,
I'm sorry, Noor. Somehow, I'm not able to see the presentation.
You're not able to see my screen?
Yes, I'm not able to see.
Just give me a second. Okay, how about now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I'm able to see. Go ahead.
Great. Okay, sorry guys, some of you were not able to see the screen, so I'm just giving a brief intro about Winwire Technologies. Just to recap, Winwire Technologies is an IT solutions company making information actionable for the enterprises. Our key focus areas include mobility, cloud, collaboration, and analytics. As a Microsoft managed partner, we leverage platforms such as SharePoint, SQL Server, Office 365, and development platforms like Azure and .NET. So with this, let me introduce you to today's session speaker, and the topic is Office 365 and Azure better together. So today's panelist is Mr. Madan Marimuthu, who is enterprise consultant at Winwire Technologies. He has got close to 10 years of IT industry experience and is a Microsoft certified professional. So with that, I would like to hand over the session to Madan. Madan, over to you.
Hey, thank you so much, Noor, for setting the stage. Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking out time and joining the Wire to Win webinar series from Winwire Technologies. My name is Madan, and I have been working with SharePoint and all Microsoft platform technologies, ranging from .NET, Commerce Server, and Office 365, Azure, all of that. So I'll be guiding you guys, through how can we, make Office 365 and Azure working better together. Okay. For the agenda for today's discussion, I'll be talking briefly about what is Office 365 and Azure. I know, many of you would already know. That's why, you guys are all on this webinar. But still, I'll take a few minutes, not taking too much of time in introducing these two platforms, and then what are the options we have on hand for extending the Office 365 capabilities with Azure, right? And we will also look at how do we set up the development environment for making this happen, and especially we will take one of the approach called provider hosted app model to do a demonstration, right? In the next slide, we'll briefly cover the Office 365 and then Azure, the introduction. Basically, Azure, Microsoft Azure is basically Microsoft's answer to a public cloud offerings from all the competitors, right? Always, as usual, Microsoft does it in style. They have invested huge amount in having high technology data centers, highly secured data centers across the globe, right? In getting all these performance, security compliance, SOX auditing compliance, all of that, right? And they offer all the Azure services. So when we say Azure, it has been a buzzword for quite some time in the market. What do we really mean by Azure? What it offers to me as a consumer, right? That's the question with many of the IT folks I have met, and I have consulted with them. And basically, it kind of offers anything and everything, right? You can start having virtual machines, websites, cloud services. When I say virtual machines, you can very well, in minutes, I would say, set up your entire development environment in with Azure. So you don't have to worry about managing your hardware internally on your premises, having a dedicated data center, and all the other resources for managing your development test environments, right? Azure is not just for development and test environment. When I mentioned that, what I meant to say that is a development environment, you can have it up and running in very less time, right, with low maintenance. That's what I mean to say. It is in no way, I'm not saying that you cannot use Azure for production purposes, right? Majority of the organizations are already using it. Apart from that, you have mobile services and even your Active Directory running on your Azure platform. So this is a brief about Azure and about Office 365, right? What is actually Office 365, right? You literally get availability across your calendar, right? Across every single day, you get an availability of Office product, but everything online. You don't ideally need any of the client software like MS Word and PowerPoint, all of that Office stuff, plus not just regular Office, the base Office suite of products. It even includes your communication platforms of Link and your email, calendar information, newsfeed and Yammer, everything, right? All of that information offered by Microsoft, right? It works on a subscription basis, so you can go ahead with it. You can say, I just need SharePoint in online. I just need probably just the Office products, right? You can say, okay, I just need subscription only for Link, right? There are multiple options available and multiple licensing options available. And in the next slide, we will see how Azure and Office 365 are doing business, right? How much revenue it generates for Microsoft, and why is it important for Microsoft to push for it, right? And also let the customers know the benefits out of it, right? In case if anybody if any one of you are still feeling that Azure is not, or the cloud offerings are not still leveraged by many customers, these numbers will talk otherwise, right? You can see there are 3,000 trials per week. There are 10 trillion Azure objects already, and as high as 1,000 customers, new customers on a daily basis, Microsoft is registering, and it's a huge amount of money. There is already $15 billion invested on cloud offerings itself, and 400 billion Active Directory accounts on Azure platform. And another important thing to talk about Azure is there are 50% of Fortune 500 companies already using Azure, right? So these metrics are amazing, isn't it? To see how much of adoption is already there for Azure, and why is it hot in the market. And Office 365, I would say majority of the implementations, we start doing it now as a consulting company. Many of them are already on Office 365 in some form or the other. Maybe just a SharePoint Online, or probably the SharePoint Online plus Yammer, right? And anybody who attended the SharePoint conference in this year probably would have really guessed the direction in which Microsoft is going towards. Any new feature which Microsoft is working on, it will be available immediately on Office 365, right? As early as on a weekly basis, there are updates made to the service offering you get once you subscribe, without you doing anything additional, right? Without you paying anything additional for that. So let's say if you have a SharePoint on-premises environment, probably you may get a service pack once in 6 months or so, and you may get a new product altogether once in 2 years, right? That's the kind of cycle Microsoft customers are used to. But once you have an Office 365, you kind of get every update on a quicker fashion. In the next slide, we will cover some other sections on the specific topics about today's webinar of extending the Office 365 capabilities, right? In today's world, everybody is using mobile apps, all the mobile devices, right? I hardly see laptops, and I don't even know after 5 years we'll ever see laptops. It will be one of those kept in museums and then the shelves, right? That's the pace we are going at, and everything is looked at as apps, a specific app targeted to a specific usage of for an user. That's what the direction we are going towards, and yes, that's the right direction to go also, right? We need to start thinking of building the apps rather than building the traditional way of creating a solution package and then deploying them and deploying them as web parts, right? In a traditional SharePoint world, start thinking around developing apps, and for doing that, obviously you need to set up the development environment, right? That we will cover it, and then once you develop, you need to choose, or even even before development, I would say, you need to choose the deployment platform, and finally you deploy it. You let your consumers consume the app. That's the life cycle. In the next slide, I'm going to cover the hosting options. As I talked earlier, the hosting options, probably you will have to choose before you even you complete your development environment setup. So the very first, there are two types of offerings, the app hosting offerings, right? One is on the cloud, right? You may feel that I don't have an environment. Probably I may need to host it on a cloud, right? The apps needs to be hosted on a cloud. And the other option is on your on-premises existing SharePoint. And on the cloud, the first option is about provider hosted, which is shown in the diagram. The next option is auto hosted, right? Auto hosted was a direct answer when you have Windows Azure and then SQL Azure set up already with you. But I know many of you have already looked at the communication from Microsoft, which came few weeks back, I would say mid of May, which clearly tells the auto-hosted apps will no longer be there, right, after June 30th. So if anybody has not looked at that communication, probably you may have to go ahead and then look at your options, other options. What other options are there? I'm going to tell you, right? There's only one other option. If you have an auto-hosted app currently, and you want to move, it's the provider hosted is the option, right? Next option is the SharePoint hosted. I hope I don't have to cover much about it. looking at the interest of time, in the next slide, how do you set up the development environment for the provider hosted? So let me be clear. Today's session, we are going to cover primarily about the provider hosted apps. Steps are very clearly documented. For the webinar participants, I'm sure we'll share the decks and then the slide deck with you guys, and then you can also reach out to us anytime if you need any help on setting up all these environments. So basically, as like any other Microsoft platform development, you need a Visual Studio. Right? You need Visual Studio in the development server. That's number one. And you got to sign up for the Office 365 developer site. Right? You need to have a subscription for it. Once you have a subscription, you can sign up for the developer site. In fact, signing up for developer site, you don't even need a license. You can even go with a trial option, and you will create your account. And once you create your account, it automatically navigates you to the preview admin center, and then it directly lands you in the developer site. Okay, are we good? Can we go ahead and move to building an app? Yes, you can. But before that, one last step in the development environment setup you have to do is installing the development tools as well as the templates for the Visual Studio. So Visual Studio, people who are using Visual Studio for quite some time would know Visual Studio is a base platform, right? And then you always add add-ons and templates on top of it to do the development, right? In the next slide, let's talk about a few quick steps on how do you build apps. These steps, we will show you a demo, right? In the interest of time, we may not be able to show a, demo on a live basis, because if I start opening my Visual Studio and then, if it is not responding or during all the demos, right? So we will probably have a very brief session on all of these steps, covering all of these steps. You have to create a new project and choose the apps for SharePoint 2013 and choose all the other options, and modifying the code as necessary. That's what I mentioned. I know it's slightly vague to say as necessary, but I'll try to show a sample of not a very complex logic. The logic is not the point in today's discussion, but it is like, how do you do it, right? How do you connect these two? Once I know you guys are experts in development, you can do any complex logic coding. So I'm not really going to get in there and then tell you how do you do complex programming. Right? In the next slide, we will talk about the steps, the high-level steps for hosting apps on Azure websites. So you basically create the Azure website and download the publishing profile, import it, update all the all the relevant information, and then publish it. You basically publish it to an Azure, and you change your URL to the Azure URL, and you will register and then upload the app package. So those steps are pretty much available on net, available on MSDN websites, and you can go ahead and have a look at it if there are any questions, or come back to us. That's pretty much about it from a content perspective. Let's look at the demo briefly, and for the demo, I'm going to take a simple scenario. Many people may have questions on where did I develop. So I basically did it in my development environment itself, and I have hosted the apps, and then that app is consumed from the Office 365 portal. Right? The app is basically hosted in Azure, and it is consumed from an Office 365 portal, right? So this is the site, I have it. Just in the interest of time, we just kind of recorded the demo so that we don't lose any time. So basically, I'm going to start from the Visual Studio. This is my development environment, and I'm going to just create a new project in my development environment. Okay. This is our Visual Studio. I assume that I just for the saving the time, I have already completed the templates, and I have already completed the Office 365 developer site as well, right? Those steps, I have already done it. I'm just creating a new project. Just make sure that you choose the app for SharePoint 2013 as an option, and I'm just going to give it a name. What do I give? Okay, demo app. Sure. I'll give a name for the solution, and obviously, I want to create a new directory for solution, and yeah, I hit OK. And in the next screen, you remember to choose the URL of your Office 365 developer site, what you have already registered. And are we good? Can we create it? No, because by default the selection is the auto-hosted. Remember to change the auto-hosted option. As I told, it's going to be discarded soon, maybe in a couple of weeks' time. So remember to change the option to provider hosted. And next, if you go next, this is also an important aspect. You just choose a client secret option, and good. Yeah, we are good for creating a project. Give it a second for creating a project. Visual Studio does all the fancy stuff to create all the project directory and the website, everything, right? We're almost there in completing the project creation. Okay, we have it. So I'm just going to take a very simple scenario, as I mentioned. So I'm just we are almost done with the project creation. So I'm just going to just show a sample. In my default SPX page, I'm going to put some structure which will kind of get me the SharePoint site, the current SharePoint site, and the current user details, and then the list available. So I have kind of the code available already, just to save the time, as I mentioned. I'm just going to replace the body part with the code I have already written and tested it. Okay, there you go. And are we good? Can we go ahead and publish it and run the demo? No. Yeah. Nobody will do the demo just by putting the code in default.aspx, right? So you guys are experts. So I want to add some logic in the code behind. So I'm going to add some namespaces which are required. Okay, and I'm also going to add some code to it. So basically, to fetch. The idea here is, SharePoint Online. With SharePoint Online, many developers felt my hands are kind of tied. I'm not able to do the regular stuff of doing the code, opening the Visual Studio, and then doing the code, right? So here is the answer for that. your hands are not tied, you are well free to go ahead and then do it. Make the environment dirty by putting all the custom code you want. But the idea is any features or any capabilities you want to extend, it is possible, right? So I'm done with the code. So I'm going to go ahead and build the solution, start the solution, and probably not because if I run it now and then I may have to publish it, so that's going to take some time. So I will go ahead and switch to my other window where I have the same published app available. And basically, it does only these three things. Don't look at the UI. UI is not fancy. I know that. I know people are commenting about it, but the idea is to get the feature and the functionality of extension, right? For extending the Office 365 capabilities. So once I hit the populate data, I'm just going to get the current SharePoint site, which is the demo site what I have created, and then the logged user, the demo user I have used, and also the all the list within that site. So that's definitely a server-side code which is getting executed on your Office 365 demo site. That's pretty much about it, from my side. Noor, back to you. Thanks for setting the stage and then going through. Back to you, Noor. Thank you so much, guys, for attending.
Okay. Thanks, Madan. Thanks for the wonderful session. And I'm sure people would go back with keynotes in terms of how Office 365 with Azure provides a better flexibility and business agility. So with that, I think we are running out of time, but let me take a couple of questions from the audience. The first question is how much time it takes to set up development environment?
Interesting question. I would say the developer site, subscribing for a developer site, probably if you are doing it for the first time, ideally it takes only few minutes to do it. But for Microsoft to provision the site, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. And I would say probably about a couple of hours for that, and then maybe another couple of hours for setting up your Visual Studio max. But if you ask me how much time I will take, I'm going to take only 30 minutes.
Great. Thanks, Madan. That's so we have another question. What is meant by client secret?
I'm sorry, Noor.
There is another question which has come up. One of the attendees asked, "What is meant by client secret?"
Mm-hmm.
So
that's basically how how your authentication and authorization works, right? Do you really want to how secure your communication will be between various environments, right? When you have a SharePoint online and then a app hosted outside of your online, how do you secure your communication? So just for a demo purpose, I have taken a client secret, but you can also go ahead and register a certificate, right? And you can say, all my communications will go through this certificate.
Okay, great, thanks. So we got another 1 minute, so we have another question. So do I need licenses for setting up the development environment?
I would say yes and no. The simplest answer is yes. You actually don't need it. As long as you can even go ahead with a trial version. But I would say if you already have an Office 365 subscription in some form, you can go ahead and do a developer site setup. If not, you'll have to go with a trial version, but with the assumption that it will be available only for some time.
Okay, thanks, Madan. And thanks all the audience for taking time to join this webinar. In case if you guys have more questions, you can write to us at marketing@winwire.com, and we'll have our experts coming back to you with appropriate answer. Thanks, Madan, for the wonderful session. Have a good day. Thanks, audience, for joining today's Wire to Win webinar series. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.